The marketing plan for beamMe really was organic and focused on the virality of our product, but I'm also a big believer in sort of traditional PR in quotes, and I think that includes getting blog coverage and getting media coverage. If you make apps for mobile devices, probably the most meaningful coverage that you can get is being featured in the app stores for whatever platform you're working on. So for us, early on in beamMe's lifecycle, we were featured on the iTunes App Store. We were written up in the Times and through a bunch of syndication, and also we were actually featured on the Apple.com start page. So we got a bunch of initial kind of momentum for the product that way. And then we've had a generally pretty good kind of PR air cover and viral ground cover for the distribution of our product. Whenever a new platform launches, and I've been really fortunate to be around for, right on the cusp of the launch of the internet, really, the launch of Facebook, for example, and the iPhone, and been involved at Cisco Systems, and then my last kind of focus, and then now this new startup at each one of those things. What you realize is that in the very early days, a handful of developers with good ideas and the right focus take a disproportionate have a disproportionate success out of the launch of a new technology platform. And that's pretty consistent, but it's very unusual for those early succeeders to get to the next stage of the game. And typically, the real money is made by the people who come immediately after that first group. The first group is kind of big land grab, and then there's some shakeout, and then it's the second group who really seems to make a big go of it. And so what I would say is, especially if you're developing apps today, I think the opportunities are still tremendous. However, the likelihood that you'll make an amazing single $1 application that will make you millions of dollars, I think, is pretty slim. Those were always corner cases. That was not the norm, even at the dawn of the iPhone. That has never been the norm. That will never be the norm. A handful of people win the lottery, effectively, by being at the right place at the right time and with a great app. It doesn't take anything away from that. But the rest of the people, we got to slog it out. So just like any other platform, you got to make great product. You got to excite your customers. You have to market that product well. You need to know what your customers love and keep iterating against that, that vision of really solving a customer problem every day. I make a ton of mistakes. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I make an absolute ton of mistakes. I make mistakes every single day. I make mistakes probably multiple times a day. And if you listen to my business partner or my life partner or my parents, they'd probably have an even better list of mistakes they could share with you. And I'm so hypercritical of myself and the world around me that it would be difficult for me to really single out one thing where I would say, there are some things, Sonny, I did wrong. One thing I can tell you, though, is that in the context of a life full of mistakes, the smartest people in the room are the ones who know they've made a mistake, and without hubris, turn away from that, acknowledge it, move on, close that door, open a new door when they need to do that without getting stuck somewhere, for like Afghanistan or Iraq, like at some point you have to say, I made a mistake, this was the wrong thing to do, and I'm moving on. And, if there's one that I probably, that probably like, well, it's not even really a mistake, but if there's one experience in my past I think is kind of interesting. I like to be liked, like I suppose everybody likes to be liked. And, I remember in Trimedia, which was my last startup, I had one business meeting with someone that was I thought was a pretty good meeting, maybe tough, but a pretty good meeting. And afterwards, I heard back that person who was a client we were trying to close, the president of that company had said, under no circumstances will I do a deal when Gabe's around. He needs to never be there. I never want to see him again. I just think he's terrible and obnoxious, and I just don't want him involved. And at the time, I was crushed. I mean, I did all this business development. I fairly well-known figure in the games industry, and I'm like, this is crazy. What did I do, to piss this person off? And I was probably really fractured by that for a long time. I would say certainly that I took that much more personally and much more to heart than I probably should have. And turns out this person doesn't remember that at all. And, now I know him and we talk and it's all cool. And he's like, what are you talking about? And, it's sort of funny in retrospect, but, I'm still carrying it around, by the way. And it's been like, a solid 10 years. And I still think about it sometimes, like, gosh, that was a terrible moment, So the mistake that I really made in this case was to harp on somebody not liking me when, being liked is really not that important. You hear that a lot. You hear that from self-help coaches. You know, it's your parents tell you that when you're in school. It's not that important that you be liked, that you should be respected. That's what's really important. But of course, everyone wants to be liked. So we're deluding ourselves if we think we don't want to be liked. But when you encounter a situation in which somebody has expressed a dislike for you in a business context, I think the best thing to do is turn away from the situation, move on in a different direction, stay away from it, don't harp on it. In the end, they'll get over it. That's what I've learned.